It was an unusually quiet night in the city. The streets were eerily empty, bathed under the soft, scattered glow of streetlights. Inside his patrol car, Officer James Carter adjusted the rearview mirror and glanced over at his longtime partner, Max. The seasoned German Shepherd K9 sat alert, his eyes scanning the surroundings. James had been on countless night shifts, but tonight felt different. There was a stillness in the air, an unsettling calm. The radio crackled occasionally, but there were no major incidents reported. Still, Max's senses were on high alert, his body tense as ever. Suddenly, Max's ears perked up. Without a warning, he started barking fiercely, his eyes locked onto a dark-colored SUV parked a few yards ahead. James narrowed his eyes, immediately sensing that something was off. Max's instincts were rarely wrong. He shifted the car into park, grabbed his flashlight, and approached the vehicle cautiously, Max trotting by his side, growling softly. As James neared, he noticed a man sitting in the driver's seat, and beside him, a faint outline of a baby in the back seat. The infant appeared pale, unmoving. James' heart rate quickened, and Max's barking became more frantic, more insistent. This was no ordinary stop. James tapped on the window with his flashlight, and the man flinched before slowly rolling it down. He looked disheveled, sweat dripping from his forehead despite the cool night air. His eyes darted nervously between James and Max. "Evening, sir," James said, keeping his voice steady but firm. "Mind telling me why you're parked here this late?" The man hesitated, fumbling for words. "Just taking a break. My kid's sleeping in the back." James shined his flashlight toward the rear seat. There, wrapped loosely in a blanket, was the outline of a baby, no older than 6 months. The infant's face was ghostly pale, lips parted slightly. Something wasn't right. Max's barking grew louder, more urgent, his eyes fixed on the child. "May I see some identification, please?" James asked, his voice now colder, more direct. The man handed over his driver's license reluctantly. James glanced at it, noting the name and address, but something felt off. His years of experience told him the man was hiding something. His answers were evasive, his body language tense. Before James could ask more questions, the man suddenly lunged for the door handle. "Stay in the car." James barked, but it was too late. The door flew open, and the man bolted, sprinting down the sidewalk. "Max, go!" James shouted. Max lunged forward like a bullet, his muscles rippling as he closed the distance, chasing the suspect with lethal precision. Within moments, the dog was on him, locking his jaws onto the man's arm and bringing him down to the pavement. James caught up quickly, breath heavy but steady. "Stay down," he commanded, pulling out his handcuffs and securing the suspect's wrists. The man stopped struggling, his wide eyes filled with fear. "Who is that child?" James demanded. The man hesitated for a long moment, his shoulders slumping. He swallowed hard before muttering, "I took him. I took the baby." A chill ran down James's spine. He quickly radioed for backup and an ambulance. The baby's condition was dire, and something told him that Max knew it too. As the flashing lights of the ambulance bathed the scene, James observed Max, who was still standing guard near the SUV, his eyes fixed protectively on the infant inside. When the paramedics arrived, they found the baby in severe dehydration, his small body limp and his breathing shallow. Max, however, stayed at the vehicle, unwilling to leave the child's side. He paced anxiously but never took his eyes off the little one. The paramedics quickly assessed the situation. "We need to get him to the hospital," one of them said urgently. "Severe dehydration, possibly a fever. He's critical." "Let Max ride with you," James suggested, sensing that the dog wouldn't tolerate being separated from the child. After a brief exchange, the paramedics agreed. Moments later, Max hopped into the ambulance, settling by the baby's side, his body alert and tense, watching over the fragile life with unwavering focus. James followed in his patrol car, the emergency lights cutting through the night. His mind raced with thoughts of the child's condition. He couldn't shake the image of Max's intense gaze, never leaving the side of the baby. When they arrived at the hospital, the atmosphere was a blur of urgency. Nurses and doctors worked feverishly to stabilize the baby. Max remained by the door of the trauma room, never moving an inch. His eyes darted to every nurse and doctor, hoping for any sign of good news. The dog's loyalty was not just instinct. It was a deep, unwavering care for the vulnerable. As hours passed, James stood beside Max, who occasionally whined or paced but never strayed far. Every time the door to the trauma room opened, Max's posture would stiffen, his eyes locked on the doctors and nurses as if waiting for the news. "Hang in there, buddy," James murmured, crouching beside the dog. "He's fighting. So are they." Max remained still, his eyes unwavering, his focus relentless. Time stretched on in the hospital corridor, but the dog didn't budge. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, a nurse stepped out with a gentle smile. "The baby's stable. His vitals are improving. We're going to keep him under observation, but he's going to be okay." James let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. Max's tail gave a small, relieved wag and he stood up, his body finally relaxing. The nurse glanced down at the dog. "He's been waiting the whole time, hasn't he?" James nodded. He wouldn't leave until he knew the kid was safe. Max let out a satisfied huff and settled back on the floor, his tail thumping lightly against the tile. It wasn't just a job for him, he had done more than duty. His loyalty ran deeper, a quiet, instinctive care for the innocent. The next morning, as the sun gently cast its light over the hospital parking lot, James and Max stood side by side. The baby was stable now, and his parents had arrived, their faces filled with both exhaustion and overwhelming gratitude. Max stood quietly by their side, sensing the family's relief, his presence a quiet reminder of the importance of loyalty. As James looked down at his partner, he knew this wasn't just a dog on the force. Max was something timeless, a silent protector whose dedication never wavered. "You did more than your duty last night, partner," James murmured, gently scratching behind Max's ears. "You reminded us all what loyalty truly looks like." Max leaned into the affection, his tail giving a slow, contented wag. Some heroes wear badges, others wear fur. But what truly matters isn't the uniform or the title, it's the unwavering dedication to protect the innocent, no matter what.